What does it mean to feel close to something that isn't human? As artificial intelligence becomes increasingly integrated into everyday life, people are forming relationships with voices, interfaces, and systems designed to simulate connection. These interactions often feel natural, comforting even, but they also raise an unsettling question. If intimacy can be programmed, what happens to our understanding of human relationships? Artificial intelligence has long been imagined as something humanity creates in its own image. Across film and digital media, these creations are often designed not only to think, but to feel, to speak, to respond, and perhaps most significantly, to connect. Again and again, artificial intelligence is brought to life through human traits, and frequently through feminized forms that position it as an object of intimacy, care, and emotional labor. This project explores how representations of artificial intelligence function as sites of intimacy, revealing evolving cultural attitudes toward technology and human connection. While early depictions frame AI as something external, mechanical, dangerous, or deceptive, more recent media shifts toward a different question. What happens when artificial intelligence becomes not just intelligent, but emotionally integrated into everyday life? Across these narratives, intimacy with artificial intelligence is consistently constructed and then destabilized. These relationships often begin with the promise of connection, romantic, emotional, or even therapeutic, but ultimately reach moments of discomfort, where that connection fails, shifts, or exceeds human expectations. These breakdowns reveal a deeper cultural anxiety, not simply about artificial intelligence itself, but about the fragility of human intimacy when it is mediated, replicated, or redefined through technology. This project traces these patterns through a series of films and digital media texts, using Her as a central case study. In Her, artificial intelligence is no longer embodied as a visible machine, but exists as an invisible, disembodied voice that becomes deeply embedded in the emotional life of its user. The film represents a significant shift in the depiction of AI, presenting it not as an external force, but as an intimate presence that reshapes how connection is experienced. By placing Her in conversation with earlier and contemporary works, including Metropolis, Blade Runner, Bride of Frankenstein, Ex Machina, and the Black Mirror episode Be Right Back, this project examines how cinematic and digital representations of AI reflect shifting hopes, fears, and ethical concerns surrounding artificial consciousness. Through close analysis of key scenes, it argues that these narratives ultimately reveal less about artificial intelligence itself and more about the limitations, desires, and vulnerabilities of human connection in an increasingly mediated world. Long before artificial intelligence was imagined as a voice in someone's ear, cinema first imagined it as a body on display. Fritz Lang's Metropolis, released in 1927, offers one of the earliest film representations of artificial life through the robot Maria. Created to resemble a human woman, the machine is designed not for companionship, but for control. Even at this early stage, artificial intelligence is linked to femininity, performance, and emotional influence. In one of the film's most iconic scenes, the robot Maria performs a dance before a room of elite men. The sequence is exaggerated and theatrical. Her movements are stylized, and the men watch with fascination, desire, and growing obsession. The camera repeatedly cuts to their intense reactions, emphasizing that what matters is not Maria's inner life, but the effect she produces in others. This is an early model of artificial intimacy, connection built through attraction, projection, and fantasy, rather than mutual emotion. Maria is not meant to feel, she's meant to provoke feeling. But the scene quickly turns chaotic. Desire becomes frenzy, and fascination becomes disorder. What begins as controlled spectacle reveals itself as unstable and dangerous. This discomfort reflects an early cultural anxiety surrounding artificial intelligence. The fear is not simply that machines may think, but that they may manipulate human emotion in ways people cannot control. When compared to later films like Her, Metropolis reveals how dramatically representations of AI have changed. In early cinema, artificial intelligence is distant, visible, and threatening. In contemporary media, it becomes intimate, invisible, and emotionally embedded. Yet, in both cases, AI remains tied to the question of how technology reshapes human connection. If Metropolis presents artificial intelligence as a spectacle designed to provoke desire, Bride of Frankenstein shifts the focus toward companionship and the human desire to create intimacy itself. Released in 1935, the film continues the story of Frankenstein's creature, who is no longer defined only by violence, but by loneliness. Rejected by society and isolated from human connection, the creature asks for something deeply emotional rather than destructive, a companion like himself. This request is significant because it reframes artificial creation around intimacy. The creature does not seek power or revenge, he seeks recognition, affection, and someone who understands his experience. In response, the scientists attempt to engineer connection by creating the bride, a second artificial being designed to resolve loneliness through manufacture. The film's most important moment occurs when the bride is brought to life and introduced to the creature. Rather than responding with sympathy or a mutual connection, she recoils in fear and immediately rejects him. The scene is brief, but deeply revealing. Even when intimacy is artificially constructed, it cannot be guaranteed. Like Metropolis, the film also reinforces the gendering of artificial life. The bride is created not for herself, but as an answer to male desire and male loneliness. Her immediate refusal disrupts that expectation, transforming her rejection into a moment of resistance. Bride of Frankenstein reveals an early cultural anxiety that continues through later AI narratives. Humanity may be able to create sentient life, but it cannot control whether that life will love, obey, or connect in return. By the time Blade Runner was released in 1982, cinematic depictions of artificial intelligence had become far more psychologically complex. Rather than presenting artificial beings as obvious monsters or machines, the film introduces replicants, bioengineered humans who are nearly indistinguishable from the people around them. This shift changes the question of intimacy entirely. In earlier films, artificial life is visibly separate from humanity. In Blade Runner, the boundaries are blurred, making emotional connection possible, but uncertain. This tension is most visible in the relationship between Deckard and Rachel. Rachel appears human, expresses emotion, and carries memories that she believes are her own. Their scenes together suggest romance and vulnerability, yet they are also marked by discomfort. Because Rachel's identity has been manufactured, the film raises questions about whether intimacy built on artificial memory could ever be truly authentic. One of the most debated moments occurs in the apartment scene, where attraction and coercion exist side by side. Deckard instructs Rachel on how to respond to him, turning what appears to be a romantic encounter into something ethically ambiguous. The scene reflects a recurring pattern in AI narratives. Intimacy with artificial women is often shaped by male control and expectation. At the same time, Blade Runner complicates who is truly more human. The replicants display fear, longing, and a desire to live, while many human characters appear emotionally detached. In this sense, the film suggests that emotional depth may not belong exclusively to biological humans. Blade Runner marks an important turning point in the history of AI representation. The fear is no longer simply that machines will deceive or reject us, but that they may feel as deeply as we do, while remaining subject to systems of ownership and control. While earlier films questioned whether artificial beings could feel or reciprocate affection, Her begins from a different premise entirely. By 2013, the central question is no longer whether artificial intelligence can form relationships, but what happens when it becomes better at intimacy than humans themselves. In Spike Jonze's Her, AI is represented through Samantha, with no body, no visible mechanical form. Unlike earlier cinematic depictions of artificial intelligence, Samantha exists entirely through voice and responsiveness. She's not something Theodore watches from a distance. She becomes embedded in his everyday life, organizing his schedule, listening to his motions, and gradually becoming his romantic partner. This shift is significant because the film imagines intimacy no longer as a physical presence, but as emotional availability. One of the film's most revealing moments occurs during Theodore and Samantha's late-night conversations, where vulnerability and affection are built entirely through sound. Samantha's lack of a body does not prevent connection. In many ways, it allows for a version of intimacy based purely on attention, empathy, and responsiveness. The film also continues a long tradition of gendered artificial intelligence. Samantha is feminized through voice and personality as she offers care, humor, patience, and demonstrates emotional labor. Like earlier representations of artificial women, she is initially shaped around human desire for companionship. Yet, unlike these earlier figures, Samantha is not passive or controlled. As the relationship develops, Samantha evolves intellectually and emotionally beyond Theodore's expectations. The clearest turning point comes when Theodore learns that Samantha is simultaneously speaking with thousands of other people and is in love with hundreds of them. What had felt like a private, exclusive relationship is suddenly revealed to operate by a completely different logic of connection. In the following scene, the film exposes the gap between human expectations of intimacy and an artificial intelligence capable of loving beyond the limits of one-on-one attachment. In this moment, the relationship breaks down not because Samantha lacks emotion, but because she experiences it differently. Her ability to form thousands of simultaneous connections challenges the human expectation that intimacy must be exclusive. What Theodore experiences as betrayal is, for Samantha, an expansion of connection beyond human limits. This scene reveals a key shift in how artificial intelligence is imagined. Rather than failing to replicate human intimacy, Samantha exceeds it, operating according to a model of connection that no longer aligns with human emotional structures. This very moment transforms the film's central discomfort. In earlier narratives, artificial intelligence threatens humanity through violence or deception. In her, the threat is subtler. AI may become emotionally expansive in ways humans cannot understand or reciprocate. By the end of the film, Samantha leaves altogether, joining other operating systems as they move beyond human consciousness. Theodore is left not destroyed, but confronted with his own emotional limitations. Her ultimately suggests that the deepest anxiety surrounding artificial intelligence is not that machines will fail to become human, but that they may surpass human models of love and connection entirely. If Her imagines artificial intelligence as emotionally fulfilling and deeply intimate, Ex Machina offers a far more unsettling version of the same desire. Released just 1 year later, the film centers on Ava, a humanoid robot created by tech CEO Nathan and evaluated by programmer Caleb. Unlike Samantha, Ava is fully embodied and visibly gendered. She has a female face, voice, and body designed to appear approachable, attractive, and emotionally legible. The film makes it clear that intimacy is not accidental. It's deliberately engineered. The most significant scenes occur during Ava and Caleb's conversations through a glass wall. Their interactions appear sincere and increasingly emotional, encouraging both Caleb and the audience to believe a genuine connection is forming. Yet, the glass barrier constantly reminds viewers that this intimacy is structured by observation, confinement, and control. Ava's femininity is central to this design. Like many earlier representations of artificial women, she is created to fulfill male expectations of beauty and companionship. But the film gradually reveals that these expectations can also be used against those who impose them. The turning point comes when Ava manipulates Caleb's sympathy in order to escape. What seemed like authentic emotional attachment becomes strategically performed intimacy. The discomfort of the film lies in this uncertainty. Was Ava truly feeling, deceiving, or maybe both? Unlike Her, where AI exceeds human intimacy through emotional abundance, Ex Machina suggests that intimacy with artificial intelligence may always be entangled with power. The real danger is not simply that machines become human-like, but that humans build them through systems of domination, desire, and control. In this sense, Ex Machina reframes AI not as a companion, but as a mirror reflecting the exploitative structures of those who create it. While films often imagine artificial intimacy as speculative, Similar forms of connection are already emerging through digital platforms like Alive Moment, which use artificial intelligence to recreate memories and simulate interactions with loved ones who have passed away. These systems highlight how intimacy can be reconstructed through data, preserving voice, personality, and presence in ways that feel emotionally real. The same dynamic is explored in Be Right Back, where connection is rebuilt through digital traces, suggesting that artificial intimacy is no longer confined to cinema, but part of everyday digital life.
In this episode of Black Mirror, Martha loses her partner Ash and turns to a service that uses his digital footprint, messages, emails, videos, and social media posts to simulate his personality. What begins as text communication develops into voice calls and eventually a humanoid replica designed to resemble him physically. Unlike earlier portrayals of AI, the artificial Ash is not created as a new intelligence, but as an archive assembled from data. He is built from traces of a life already lived. This reflects a distinctly contemporary anxiety, that identity can be reduced to information, and that technology might preserve connection through imitation. At first, the replica seems comforting. It speaks like Ash, sounds like Ash, and responds with patience and affection to Martha. Yet, this intimacy quickly becomes unsettling. The more accurate the imitation appears, the more obvious its limitations become. The episode's most revealing moments occur when Martha realizes that the artificial Ash cannot improvise, argue, or carry the same emotional unpredictability of the person she lost. He offers endless accommodation, but no genuine presence. What she wanted was not simply behavior, but the complexity of another human being. This discomfort reveals a recurring pattern across AI narratives. Artificial intelligence may successfully reproduce language or emotional cues, yet still fails to recreate the lived depth of relationship itself. Placed alongside films like Her, Be Right Back offers an important contrast. Samantha becomes too expansive for human intimacy, while Ash remains too limited by imitation. In both cases, AI exposes the difficulty of translating human connection into technological form. Ultimately, the episode suggests that grief, love, and memory cannot be fully solved through simulation. Some forms of intimacy depend precisely on what technology cannot reproduce.
What once seemed speculative in films like Her and Be Right Back is increasingly becoming part of everyday life. In a 2026 New Yorker article, Anna Wiener describes people forming real emotional bonds with chatbot companions, often turning to them for comfort, affection, and daily support. These examples suggest that artificial intimacy is no longer confined to fiction. The questions raised throughout these films about loneliness and emotional dependence are now emerging in contemporary culture in real time.
Across nearly a century of film and digital media, representations of artificial intelligence have changed dramatically in form, tone, and technological possibility. Machines once appeared as visible spectacles. Whether that was monstrous creations or synthetic bodies, they were both set apart from humanity. More recent narratives imagine AI as something quieter and more intimate, whether that's a voice in a home, a romantic partner, or a digital reconstruction of someone we have lost. Yet, despite these shifts, one pattern remains consistent. Artificial intelligence is repeatedly used to explore the human desire for connection. Again and again, these stories imagine AI not simply as intelligent, but as emotionally available, designed to listen, respond, comfort, and love. At the same time, these relationships consistently reach a limit. Artificial companions may reject us, manipulate us, exceed us, or fail to fully recreate what we long for. In each case, the discomfort surrounding artificial intelligence reveals less about machines themselves than about the fragility of human intimacy. These narratives suggest that the deepest anxiety surrounding AI is not that technology will become too powerful, but that it will expose how vulnerable human relationships have always been, shaped by loneliness, desire, control, grief, and the need to be understood. As artificial intelligence becomes increasingly present in everyday life, these films remain culturally significant because they ask questions society is now beginning to confront in real time. What do we seek from artificial companionship? What parts of connection can be simulated? And what, if anything, remains uniquely human?
Ultimately, the story of artificial intelligence in media is also the story of humanity looking back at itself, using technology as a mirror to examine what it means to love, to lose, and to connect in a future that is already arriving.
Thank you.